Everyone. My name is
San Diego. Good to see a lot of our usual friends, our new friends that have joined us for this time. And this is a powerful season for Activist San Diego. And I want to thank KNSJ for always being here and helping us to get these across the airwaves. So ASD and KNSJ, one family pulling together for community awareness. I want to start with the land acknowledgement. And we are standing on Kumeyaay and Pyokwinwechim lands. Pyokwinwechim, you might know as Luisinho, but actually their name is Pyokwinwechim. We're standing on unceded territory of our indigenous first inhabitants. This is a land that we are borrowing, we're sitting on, that has been nurturing communities for thousands of years. And this nurturing is something we need to give back to our community and clean soil, clean earth, clean air, clean water. And this is a respect due to not only the land that we stand on, but also the people who have inhabited it. We don't want to make our relationship with them ceremonial. We don't want to make any tokenism of our indigenous people, our original peoples. We want to include them into our process. I say this on a stolen land, and this message comes from a stolen man. And from there, I'm going to turn the microphone over to the next speaker.
Hello, thank you, Yusuf. Francis here, she, her pronouns. Welcome all, and thank you for being here. We're going to do a couple quick announcements, and then we're going to get into our program. So real quick, this yellow flyer that you guys see here is about a couple of the propositions, Prop 5 and Prop 33. These are about housing, rent control, and getting more funding for public housing. And our partners at DSA, Democratic Socialists of America, are doing some door knocking on Saturdays at 9:30 in launching from City Heights. Elena and I went out last weekend and had a blast. Super fun, super easy, and not a lot of people know the details. So it was really useful, really impactful. So please talk to Helena or myself to get involved in that. Everyone should mark their calendar for November 9th, Saturday, starting at 4 o'clock. We are going to be celebrating the 25th anniversary of Activist San Diego. We're going to party like it was an organization founded in 1999. It's going to be a really fun party. Very, it's outdoors, COVID safe-ish. We're going to have a red carpet at 4 o'clock. Just dress comfortably and dress to impress, dress fun. There's going to be a lot of organizational networking. We've got some of San Diego's top hip hop artists coming to perform, Katie Lippadubs and Brothers Burns. We have anti-oppression facilitator and author Bina Patel, who's wrote an amazing book called Say the Quiet Part Out Loud, which is all about the how the patriarchy and everything infiltrates all the even organizing spaces. Really amazing speaker. And then we also have world-renowned investigative journalist Greg Palast will be speaking. He will be here in person with us, and tickets begin at just $25, where no one's going to be turned away for lack of funds. If you need to a discounted ticket, please just let us know. But you can go to bit.ly// capital ASD 25. So bit.ly ASD 25 for tickets. And please tell all your friends. It's a big space. We want it to be a big party, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And lastly, our next community summit will be on Monday, November 18th. So you can mark your calendar for that. And the following month is Monday, December 16th. That'll be our annual holiday party here in this space. So with that, we will move forward into our program. Unless anyone have an announcement that they just urgently need to tell the community about? Just want to, okay, any of the other board members? Okay. Great.
One thing too. If you do get the mic passed to you, please make sure you're speaking into it and that we can hear it through the speaker here. not just so that people in the room can hear, but that's also going out to the Zoom. If you're not speaking into the microphone, the people on the Zoom won't be able to hear you. So thank you.
Cool. And just so folks in the room know, we have a pretty good full house. We got 11 people in the Zoom room as well. So thank you again all for being here. And we are today for our monthly program, we're going to dive into talk about the next phase of the energy and utility justice movement. And I say we should start calling them the EUJ movement, the energy utility justice movement, because a lot of people talk about the energy justice movement, but we want to really zoom in on the utility part of it. And I think many folks here are already aware. Want to sort of set the stage of why why Activist San Diego in particular would be talking about this issue. For now over 100 years in San Diego, SDG&E, San Diego Gas and Electric, has been the utility, the electric and gas provider here in San Diego. And we could talk for hours and hours about how we got here. And later you're going to learn about spaces that you can go and do that. But needless to say, this has been a long struggle. And for over 100 years, there have been people saying that it is not that there's a better way. Currently, we have SDG&E is an investor-owned utility owned by Sempra, traded on the New York Stock Exchange, and it is a for-profit company, and their model is based on making profit for their shareholders. There was every 20 years the SDG&E agreement, the franchise agreement, gets renewed, and there have been these moments of activism at those moments. And in the past, Activist San Diego came together with many organizations to work actively in countering that franchise agreement and pushing for a better path forward. So we were one of the founding organizations of a coalition called the Public Power San Diego, PPSD. And tonight we're going to hear from, we're going to learn more about where that coalition is. So, so now for about 5 years, I think that about, Martin, you can kind of say the franchise agreement was about 5 years ago when that coalition, I believe, started coming together. So this coalition that built also, had kind of weighed in, and there was the community choice aggregate ballot referendum, which seemed to be the goal was that by creating these alternative community choice aggregates, those communities would invest in more solar. But in the end, they've become basically resellers of SDG&E and now have a cozy relationship with theirs. So that was unfortunately not good enough. The ballot measure that you all may remember from last year, the Power San Diego ballot measure, was seeking to get municipalization on the ballot. And Activist San Diego was one of the co-sponsoring organizations in that coalition supporting the ballot referendum. We're not able to succeed in getting enough to get it on the ballot. But as you know, we have basically helped elevate the fight. We've got members of the city council having to be on the defensive, and we are basically now entering the next stage. And we have 3 amazing guests here today and online who are going to be sharing with us where they're at in the next, as we enter this next phase. We're going to we're going to hear from Carolyn Chase, who is on Zoom, I believe. Yes. And if you could, if you could bring Carolyn up on the thing, and then also she's going to need to Carolyn, you should just be able to start sharing screen. You should have the privilege already.
There
So
it is.
Carolyn Chase is going to talk to us first about where the Power San Diego ballot measure is and where Public Power San Diego Coalition is. And I guess the good news is it's become one. Carolyn, take it away. And you've got about 10 minutes, and then we can have some specific questions for Carolyn. Then we'll move on, and we'll also have more conversation time at the end.
Okay, great. Can y'all see my shared
Wait,
screen?
we can't hear you yet, Carolyn.
Okay, let me know when. I'm
that's on our
unmuted, I
side.
think.
You can keep talking, Carolyn.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You're
Okay,
good.
great. Can you see my screen? I can talk even if you can't see my screen, but I have a really nice.
Yeah, we can. There's a request if you can make your slides full screen, that would be great too.
How's that? Is that better?
A little bit. It's
How about that?
Start slideshow with it.
Well, I got other notes and stuff, so.
Okay, that's good.
Can you see it okay?
Yes.
All right, good to go. Hello, everybody. My name is Carolyn Chase. Hopefully some of you remember me from organizing Earth Day for many years. And I became involved with the Public Power Campaign in February, which is the Power San Diego is a political action committee. And there was also a nonprofit group called Public Power San Diego. And as Francis mentioned, we didn't get enough to get on the ballot, but we did get enough signatures. We had more than 25,000 validated signatures, and we got a meeting before the full city council. They voted 8-0. One of them was absent, but it was an amazing and worthwhile, a very good learning experience. And thus today, one of the lessons learned is that we need to have an educational campaign about public power. So San Diego Earth Day has adopted Public Power San Diego, and the Political Action Committee itself is closed now, but we'll do the educational campaign, and we think there'll be 3 phases. The first phase is education for the beginning, the end of this year and the next year. The second phase is to collect signatures to qualify a ballot initiative. And then the last phase is to win on the ballot, 51% of the voters. And why, you might ask? Well, because we pay the highest electric rates in the country. The rates fluctuate up and down, but we're always in the top 3. And we're advocating for a community-owned, independently run, no-profit electric utility committed to locally produced and distributed clean and sustainable energy, which basically means local solar and batteries for all buildings and parking lots. So the problem about the rate increases is that if you think your bills are high now, they will be rising each year into the future. But under public power, the rates are controlled locally, and a main feature is to remove the profits. Right now, SDG&E removes more than $1 million a day of profit taken out of the city of San Diego's customer pockets. That's our pockets. And that turns out that if we go to no profit power, electricity rates could drop 20% right away just by eliminating the taxes and the profit. Which leads me to ask, what goes into our electricity rate? So I've had a reason to look at some bills in some detail, and I managed to pull off the names of all the different things that we're being charged for that go into our electricity. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think at all about how much my electricity costs. I want to flip the switch, now the lights go on, et cetera, et cetera. But if you look into it, you'll see that the political process, they take advantage of the fact that if they raise it a little bit, they can get quite a bit of money when you have 1 million people paying into the system. And so you've got this long list of miscellaneous fees because SDG&E and the 2 other big for-profit monopolies, which are Pacific Gas and Electric in the Bay Area and Southern California, Edison and Orange County area, they have got a political system where the regulators almost always give them what they want or a close version of it. And they just don't seem to care that they're raising rates. Recently, though, they've been getting the message that the rates are too high, so they're trying to do some adjustments, but it's definitely not as good as going to public power. Another thing we're doing other than educational work, and by the way, we have a new website that hasn't even been out yet. It's just due this week. But we're offering a public power college. It's for anyone who's interested in the topic. It's free. We're going to have, I believe, in person and online, probably in person at UCSD, but maybe also at University of San Diego. Right now, Professor Adam Aarons at UCSD is student volunteers organizing to create public power, and we're going to cover all these various topics, which, believe it or not, since February is all new stuff I've learned. So if I could do it, I think a lot of people can. Anyway, it's an interesting topic. Let me put it that way. And finally, we don't have any money to speak of at this point, but one of the things about having the 501c3 is that the donations will be tax deductible. With the Political Action Committee, they were not. So we're hoping more people will be able to give. And it all is going to be done more or less with volunteers, although we are looking to we got a business plan to raise enough money to win, because we learned a lot about the first attempt to get signatures, and we know a lot more about what we're going to need to do. So with that, I will hand it back. I don't know if we're going to just move on or have questions, but I will hang around either way. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Carolyn.
And I can stop sharing.
And awesome. And we're going to actually invite, we'll invite Adam Aaron up to speak, and then we can actually maybe pair questions. If there's any immediate questions for the two of them, we can, pause for questions, or just raise your hand if you have one at any point. Sweet.
Hi, Carolyn. Thanks so much for that. Hi, everybody. Just a few words on top of that. So I'm with the UCSD Green New Deal, as you can see, and we've been struggling for about 5 years at UCSD, and we've had some amazing wins. Right now, we won a general ed requirement for climate education for 35,000 undergrads. Woohoo! And the institution is lauding it from the rooftops, but we're making sure that everyone understands that it's the grassroots that made that happen. We have forced the UC system to recognize that it's emitting 1 million tons a year of carbon dioxide, burning fossil gas on the campuses, and they have allocated $13 million for electrification planning, and that process is undergoing or happening right now due to the grassroots. Woo! That's not the same as getting off the gas, but so those are some of the things we do, and we were one of the supporters, along with Activist SD, of the Power San Diego campaign, one of the first endorsers, and students got all fired up about that and getting signatures and getting out there. So as Carolyn nicely explained, we're sort of in a new phase now. We didn't get enough signatures under Power San Diego, but we had a big impact on the city. And now we are moving to this educational phase with this Public Power San Diego, which is a 501c3. And we realize we need education, education, education. Carolyn learned about all of this from February. And I have a lot of humility talking about these utility issues, because I wrote a whole book about the climate crisis, and I've been teaching students about the stuff for years, and I knew nothing about where my electricity came from. So it's complicated, and you're out on the street, and people like, in fact, Stephen fucking Whitburn said to me at my house, his main talking point, would you trust the city to run this thing? That's what he said. So shame on him. Shame on him. So, but it's a good question. And we need good answers to that. How's this going to work? And we need good answers to all of the questions. And so I just want to express a little bit of I'm not quite sure why I'm here exactly, except to tell you that there's this cool thing, Public Power San Diego, and we're going to be doing a lot of education throughout the city, and that's Public Power College. And partly that's university students at our local Southern California colleges, but maybe even eventually statewide. And why get students involved? Because I think it's really good ideological development for them to start to think about ownership. And also they have a lot of energy and they're good at making content. So so there's three reasons that I want to put in front of you. I know I don't need to convince Activist SD that public ownership is important, but I think these are things that really make me excited and enthusiastic about this campaign in awful times, right? Number one, there's the issue of energy justice and energy democracy and lower rates for the people, one in four of whom can't pay their bills or $600 behind, and that's outrageous, okay? Secondly, there's this issue of decarbonization. And I don't think the wider climate movement, including in San Diego, understands this yet. There is no way we're going to get California off the fossil fuels in the timescale that matters under this investor-owned utility model. Okay, it is so colossally expensive because it relies on building transmission lines. That's how they make their money. And they're killing rooftop solar because it's an existential threat. So except for very wealthy people, no one's going to be buying EVs and no one's going to get gas out of the home because electricity is going to be so expensive. So if the wider environmental movement is serious about leaving fossil fuels in the ground, we're going to need something like public ownership of energy and local energy in production. That's point two. Point three, why I'm enthusiastic about this is sort of a grim point, but that is to say, the climate movement's kind of failing, frankly. And I say that as a member of the climate movement. Global heating is continuing. We're at record emissions. The United States is the #1 fossil fuel extractor and producer in the world under the Biden administration. And it looks very bad. And climate impacts are here. And climate impacts are going to get worse, even though we keep up the struggle to leave fossil fuels in the ground. And I think that climate impacts, frankly, are going to get much, much worse. You look at what happened in Florida. And so it's very important that as those impacts get worse here and in other parts of California and around the nation, that we are a model for bringing our local goods under democratic control where we are by the people. Not just electricity, but everything. That's what's going to be needed in this climate impacted world. Short supply chains, local energy production, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think this is a very powerful idea. I don't think it's widely thought like that and widely understood, but this is kind of community resilience issue to have local distributed solar and storage. And the fourth reason I'm enthusiastic about this, and this is the last one, is that, you know, one of the reasons our climate movement is generally failing, and obviously there's wins here and there, is it's too damn tiny, okay? We are the left, identitarian left and our environmental allies, and we just do not make contact with the wider society in general, with working people, with people who don't have time and capacity for this, who don't see our struggle as in their material interest, which it mostly isn't. It's in service of a moral imperative for the biosphere. It's far away in the future. And one of the things about this public ownership and the Power San Diego campaign is I thought it was very inspiring, frankly, when I looked around at who was getting signatures. And I was out on the streets. I got about 500 signatures myself. And I looked around, and this was all sorts of people, including a whole bunch of conservatives and former military people that one normally I wouldn't be running up against so much. And they are outraged about a for-profit monopoly. And they had a strong sense of the public interest and trying to do this for the wider citizenry, even though they don't share my politics. And I think that's really important because we need to mobilize big. We need a big movement. And to have a big movement, we need a cross-section of society, and we need issues that get to people's material interests. So I think this public ownership of our electric grid has got all of those ingredients. And I hope you'll join us, Carolyn and me and everyone else, in this educational mission and in spreading the word that this is a great campaign to build a stronger movement. So anyway, I hope those are some helpful comments.
Yes. And Adam, if you could share, how does one get involved in Public Power College if one wants to?
I think this is a question for Carolyn. Carolyn, are you there? I guess it's a question just how do people get involved in this new campaign,
I'm
this new
here.
educational campaign?
They can email info@publicpowersd.org and I can route them appropriately.
Okay. And Public Power SD?
Info at
publicpowersd.org.
publicpowersd.com. Info at publicpowersd.org. Yeah.
Okay. And any questions for Adam or Carolyn on what's been talked about so far? Adam, if you could give her the microphone.
Oh yeah. There we go, Isabel.
Hi, thank you. Hi, Carolyn. It's nice to see you in action again. So I, as a manager of natural lands, have had to bemoan the fact that the Sunrise Power Link has gone through a lot of important natural landscapes. And I'm just wondering, is that something that we can get away from if we have this distributed power model?
Yes. I could answer that one if you can hear me, or Adam. I
Go
mean,
for it. Go for it, Carolyn.
so the major problem with the rates is the guaranteed profit for SDG&E to install infrastructure, specifically transmission lines. One of the largest components of why our rates are so high after the profit is we're paying for transmission. Okay, so by building locally, and by the way, we do have sufficient solar resources. We have sufficient sun power in San Diego to meet all the forecasts that you can do. You can go on Google and look at all the rooftops, and Bill Powers has done that. He's author of this, and there's also the Protect Our Communities Foundation, which bird dogs the CPUC and the various requests, and is looking after the new PowerLink proposal, because they are planning a new PowerLink. They, I believe, to go around or over Mount Palomar. So SDG&E wrote letters to property owners up there about 6 months ago, making them offers to buy land. So Protect Our Communities is bird dog in that situation. And if we change the public power, we don't have to do transmission. It can be built locally, and we can keep the jobs locally and the money locally.
Is
Thanks,
there a follow-up?
Isabel. Thanks, Isabel. Good to see you too.
Yeah, Martin.
I'm really glad you're riling me up on this issue all over again, you know. Put on our activist boots. As Bernie Sanders said, it's a rigged system and it's a rigged economy. In this case, I would like to know if there are any other entities elsewhere in the United States that have been able to overthrow this power monopoly. At $1 million a day, they buy the San Diego Gas and Electric, buys a lot of support from nonprofits, from unions and others, while at the same time stealing the wealth of working people with the highest rates in the country and putting it into the pockets of the top 1%, and in many cases, the top 1/10 of 1%, transfer of wealth from working class people to the top. And the way in which they're doing it is getting the city of San Diego and others to sign a contract that for every dollar or millions of dollars that they put into an investment, they get 10% a year. How many of you are getting 10% a year guaranteed? And that means that they have every incentive to build infrastructure. We almost took them over were it not to have been sold out by a couple of people.
Name names, Johnny Lo Rivera.
Yes, at the last minute, having been on our side and speaking at our rallies, went over to the dark side. And I support him in many other instances, but in this, he really sold us out. And the essence is that it's a rigged system. If they get 10% back, they have every incentive to, because they almost lost the vote. And we would have, the city of San Diego would have had to buy them out. Now they are trying to be so big as to be impossible to be bought out by billions of dollars of new infrastructure. And it's got to stop. It's the only way we can do it, because as was said, just to say thank you, Carolyn, for years and years and years of Earth Day and continuing to fight. We have to be mad as hell and want to do something about it. And that's going to mean taking control of the power grid. It's got to be on our rooftops. It's got to be close. We don't need to flood the desert with solar panels if we have our rooftops and they've disincentivized that.
Thanks,
Yes,
Martin.
yes.
Thanks, Martin. Good to see you too.
And I think I can maybe speak to Martin's question as far as other people who have achieved this nationwide. So in across California, there's what, over 40,
Yes,
26, either
There's 40
26 or over 40
there's 45. There's over 40
in California or
in California.
In
There's
California.
there's more than 2,000 nationwide. It's actually more common than this weird for-profit monopoly thing that we've got. But you'll notice it's in the big population centers where the money, that's how it happened. The money
So
is.
and then so folks know the entire state of Nebraska has public power. There's
a little bit. So the new one is Winter Park, Florida, which was a few years ago, and that's actually a conservative place, but they were so fed up with the cutting down of trees that they took it over. But it's important to recognize 20% of Americans get their electricity from public power, but most of that is from 50 or 100 years ago, like the state of Nebraska, which still runs on coal. So we're not just about public ownership. We're about public ownership with a model of local solar and storage where we are, and we don't need any new transmission lines. And by the way, Martin, like this plan is to sever the city from the transmit. SDG&E can keep its damn transmission lines that it built and charged us for. We're going to take the grid in the city. So, and it's about $3-4 billion. It'll be 3 cents a kilowatt hour in our bills, which is a fraction of the 48 cents we're paying. We can totally do it. Yeah, there's another question over here.
hang on one second. We got a little bit of a stack, but also just on that question, I want to state that last year had the opportunity to attend, and it happened to be the annual conference for the American Public Power Association, which is the not coalition, what do they call them in business? Association, the National Association of Places that have public power. And I got to go to this conference, multi-day conference that they had here. And the thing that blew me away most was just meeting so many people who already experience and live the reality of all of the things we dream about. They have local control. They don't have, I was talking to one person, I said, we've got here almost 25% of San Diegans are behind in their bills. And I said, would that ever happen where you're at? And they were just like, goodness, no. My customers are my neighbors. Like, we help people. We make sure everyone's okay. I also realized that there's like a whole bunch of businesses and infrastructure there, and they're like networking tables that had all these booths. And there's all these companies that help public power municipal run systems. So like there's one company that in case of emergencies, if some bad disaster happens, they'll come in and help the public power, the municipal run system, so there's backup, there's support. So when Whitburn says that, we can't trust the San Diego government to run this, well, okay, then get out of here, because in a lot of places there's very smart people and who are running it really well, and it's not rocket science, and it's the whole system. And actually that our next guest is really going to get into some of the lies that we're facing. But we got a couple questions here, and then we'll go to Sergio and then Lucilla.
Hi there, my name is Sergio, and the big elephant that's missing in the room is Sempra. Sempra, according to the webpage, owns one of the largest energy networks in North America. Nearly 40 million consumers rely on Sempra. What's the role of Sempra with SDG&E and the strategy to take away their little baby?
So the role with SDG&E is they own SDG&E. Number one, they're the parent company. And the strategy is to put an initiative on the ballot that is allowed by the city charter to create a publicly owned, no-profit electrical utility. In essence, we would be purchasing the poles and wires and the distribution boxes that are inside the perimeter of the city of San Diego. And inside the city, we could then set our own rates. We could build solar anywhere we want. And we have a lot of benefits. If you go to the website, and Martin, you asked, is this happening elsewhere? There's people in Northern California that are organizing to try and get out from under PG&E, and I have links to those groups in Northern California as well, to answer Martin's question about that. And was that enough for the gentleman? I can't see him anymore.
Yeah, unless,
so,
do
yeah.
you want to say anything about Sempra?
It's just taking one of their babies away from them, and if we do this right, there's nothing they could do about it.
Yeah, we have the legal right, if we can get 50% plus one, if we can get the signatures to get it on the ballot and then get the votes. We know it's a fight. It's your classic David versus Goliath battle, but we have the moral high ground, and we had hundreds of volunteers that collected signatures. So we learned a lot about how to do it and how not to do it.
Yes, I wanted to, I have two questions about the storage. Would that include, when you say about storage, would that mean people who have rooftop solar would be able to have batteries? Or are you talking about bigger batteries for the city and how that would work?
The safest way to have batteries is to have them distributed. The biggest problem and the biggest fire risk is where you concentrate too many batteries at once. So you have too much energy literally in one place, and it can overheat and blow up. And then it becomes the worst fire that you could ever have. The City of San Diego Fire Department has a little video you can watch about why are these battery fires the most dangerous for them and for us. So the best way to have battery storage is to have it on a household or building basis, or on a microbid basis where you have several buildings, and it's safer. Because let's say you have a flaw in a battery. Well, if you have a flaw and there's only one battery, it's not going to spread to a whole bunch of batteries. And it's not likely when it's operating in a cool environment. I mean, the problem when you get them together, there's too much heat. So they actually have to use significant amounts of power to cool these gigantic batteries things. And it's really just this paradigm that these big utility companies have about needing to control everything centrally. They do not think about the importance of distributed power in either a democratic sense or in a realistic sense, in terms of the best way to provide our communities with reliable power. Because that's the other thing. You have events, and when you have this, you have that somebody sabotage your transmission line, most of the city's gone. But if you have solar power on most of the buildings with battery backup, you have more resilience, more safety, less fire risk, and more security.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I asked actually a guy who works on battery at that conference, what about this fire risk of batteries? And he said that what we have here is a lot of there's a lot of people Frankensteining battery, like setting up batteries, but doing it not well. And he basically said any engineer who's worth their salt can set it up, and with no, very, very minimal risk. It's when people rush it, and then they're just trying to do, do more for their money or whatever. They're not taking safety into account. So, cool. I think we are going to bring up our next guest now, who's also joining us on Zoom, and she is my awesome comrade and friend, Kaylee Underhill, from the Solar Rights Alliance, and joining us from Burbank, right? You're in Burbank.
Mhm.
Kaylee,
hear
it's
me?
all yours.
Okay. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah, and one more quick plug for our anniversary party on November 9th. Kaylee's gonna come down for it, so you get to hang with Kaylee. All right.
I sure
Floor is
am.
on. So Kaylee's going to present to us, and then we'll have some more Q&A time before we get to the board elections.
Thanks, Francis. I appreciate that. And I got to say, folks, this could not have been teed up better than everything that you all have discussed thus far. So thank you for all the great work that folks are doing out there. Huge thanks, as Erin said, to the grassroots. Like, that's how any of this ever happens. So really appreciate all of your effort and all of your time. My name's Kaylee, like Francis said. I'm the Advocacy and Development Director with the Solar Rights Alliance. We are a statewide grassroots nonprofit And we believe in the right to make energy from the sun, a right that, as both Aaron and Carolyn said, is constantly being undermined by the utilities. And one area that I'd like to zero in on here is the central tool that the utilities have been using for almost a decade now to undermine rooftop solar. It is this tool that has been at the heart of a series of reckless regulatory decisions. It is this tool that has been at the heart of a series of awful recent vetoes. It is this tool that, if we cannot get a grip on it, it will leak into other states, as it is already starting to do, and continue to hinder the clean energy transition. Some of you may be familiar with what I am talking about. It is a lie that the utilities like to spread about rooftop solar. And we have some new data that debunks and refutes that lie. And that's what I'd like to share with you today. So normally in situations like this, I would share slides. But today I'm actually going to share a web page, and I've got it zoomed in, so hopefully it'll be nice and large on whatever screen everyone is looking at there. But it's also the one-stop shop for everything that I'm going to talk about. And so I'll make sure that everybody gets the link, and you also can write it down since it's on your screen as well. But this is everything compiled in one place, along with all of the citations and all of the deeper graphs for the stuff that I'm going to talk about. So the utilities are lying about rooftop solar, and they have been spreading this lie now for many years. So I want to start with exactly what Carolyn said, the real reason why rates are skyrocketing. And I want to just put a finer point on it by explaining some of the numbers behind it. How much have rates been skyrocketing, and how much are the utilities responsible for it? Well, 92% of all recent rate hikes are a direct result of increased utility spending on poles and wires. And the regulators are, instead of getting a handle on this situation, simply repeating the lie about rooftop solar. Utility spending has shot up far, far beyond what is justified. Over the course of the past 20 years or so, it has shot up 300%, even though peak demand has been flat. So I want to say that again. The peak demand, the most amount of electricity that we draw on from the grid, has actually stayed about the same over the course of the last 20 years. And the reason for that is conservation and energy efficiency and rooftop solar and other distributed energy resources. It's been working. And despite that, the utility spending has shot up way further than what is justified, and way, way, way higher than inflation. So something is not right. And as Carolyn said, the reason that they are spending so much on transmission and on distribution is because that is how they make their profits. They get an 8 to 10% guaranteed profit on every pole and wire they build, which, as Aaron said, means that they are incentivized to build, baby, build as much as they possibly can. So you have spending going up, which is tied 1-to-1 with an increase in rates, which is tied nearly 1-to-1 with an increase in record profits for all of the utilities, not just PG&E, though they're a particularly bad example here. And we pay the price over and over and over again. And I want to pause here and say that the utilities often like to say, well, we have to spend more because we don't want to have more wildfires. Agreed. The utilities should definitely make sure that we do not continue to have wildfires that kill people that are their fault. But wildfire mitigation spending is only around 12% of all utility spending. So while it is notable and important for sure, it's not the main reason why rates are rising. And I think it's important to not forget the regulators. So the California Public Utility Commission is supposed to be regulating this monopoly. That's how monopolies are supposed to work. But a whopping 60% of that transmission spending that gets these utilities their profits is self-approved, which means that regulators don't even scrutinize it. The utilities get to write themselves a blank check with your dollars, and we all pay the price. And the state's auditor has actually faulted the CPUC for failing to hold the utilities accountable. And what's more is that the regulators knew, and we have the graphs to prove it, they knew that rooftop solar had actually reduced the amount of energy that we needed, so they could have lowered rates and chose not to. The utilities don't want you to focus on their out of control spending. So instead, they've invented this lie about rooftop solar, that it's rooftop solar users who are responsible for rising rates. But that doesn't make any sense. I mean, think about it. If I get up and I turn off this light switch over here, am I raising rates for my neighbor? No. If I get up and I turn off the air conditioning because now it's 75 instead of 112 in Burbank, am I causing rates to go up for the person who lives across the street? Of course not. And if I install rooftop solar on my home and turn it on, am I causing rates to go up for anyone, anywhere? Of course not. Rooftop solar, like all forms of energy efficiency, saves all ratepayers money, and really effectively too. The truth is that when people use less energy, the utilities do not need to spend as much on poles and wires. And that saves all of us ratepayers, but it also cuts into the utility profits, and they don't like that. And I've got one really resounding example of this that I want to share with you. I have kind of a funny graphic for it here, but I'm going to show you the actual graph, which you can access right here on our website. No need to check out all the text here, though you're welcome to if you'd like to. I'd like you to focus on this yellow part here. Did you know that in California, there used to be 2 times of day when our energy demand would spike? And those spikes are called peaks. And the reason that those foul, guzzling coal plants are called peaker plants is because they get turned on to accommodate those 2 peaks. Well, check it out. Rooftop solar, this yellow part right here, combined with other forms of clean energy, but look at what rooftop solar all by itself is doing, has eaten the midday peak. It has completely eliminated an entire spike in energy. And if we can get more batteries on the grid, and I agree, if we can get more distributed energy resources batteries on the grid, so batteries in basements and garages and on the outside of homes, then we can also push some of this energy to this evening time and eat this peak as well. And if we can do that, that's when we can start taking some of those peaker plants offline. So this is an exciting development. But the utility lie about rooftop solar is really getting in the way of continued progress. And I want to be clear here that this lie was invented on purpose by a PR firm. And it was supercharged with millions and millions and millions of dollars in political donations from utilities like PG&E to the tune of $190 million in campaign contributions up and down the state at every level of government. The fact is that utilities and regulators need to stop scapegoating everyday people who are just trying to control their energy bills and do the right thing. There are about 2 million rooftop solar users in California. 60% of them are middle and working class. 53% of them are people of color. The utilities need to stop blaming us for their failures and their greed. And the regulators need to get a grip on what is happening and start paying attention and taking action. And you can help. There's a number of different things that you can do to help change this situation to make it better. Because if we can debunk these cost shift lies once and for all, then we can clear the pathway to a whole range of legislative efforts, and as you folks have been talking about, ballot efforts that can help to increase rooftop solar and help put us back on track towards California's clean energy goals, which, to Aaron's point, we're not on track. And we cannot hit our state energy goals without rooftop solar. It is impossible by laws of physics, but we could get there if we can really, really increase rooftop solar. So here are the things that you can do. We have a series of action toolkits right at the bottom of this webpage. First and foremost, there's a petition to send to your elected officials. If all you have is a couple of seconds, that's a great thing to do. We also have a more in-depth action toolkit. We've been finding that the best way to really help legislators understand this is through a briefing, where they sit down with us and other volunteers and constituents and learn about this stuff. We have an in-depth slide deck that we walk them through with all of the data and all of the graphs. We unpack it for all of them, and we answer their questions. And thus far, it's been a resounding success. And you can take part in that. You can join us for lobby meetings with your legislators if you're interested. And you can also go to town halls that your legislators are holding, and we'll give you the info and train you how to do that. if you're interested in this, but you felt like this was, not a deep enough dive for you, we have a full length webinar on Wednesday that will give the whole rundown of all this information with all the data. And for folks who'd rather do the deep dive on their own, just below these action items, we have additional resources and recent posts that you can look into and a whole bunch of citations. And every single citation links directly to the graph that we're referencing in the point that we've made. And the last thing I will say is that we are also working on putting together a coalition so that when we have these lobby meetings with legislators, they understand that it's not just whoever the groups in the room might be, but that it's all of us across California who recognize the value of rooftop solar and helping our state to hit our clean energy goals. So it would be wonderful if Activist San Diego would like to join on to that coalition letter, along with a number of groups in the area that have already signed on. And I'll just say, I kind of hope that Public Power College maybe includes some information about the cost shift. And if you're interested in maybe adding that in, maybe it's already there. But if you'd like some data and some resources, I'd be happy to make some stuff for you or come and present if that would be of interest as well. So I hadn't heard about this effort and I think it's so cool and I wish that I could attend. But if you're interested in maybe including some of this information, I'd love to share that with you. So I wanted to keep it nice and short so that people could ask a bunch of questions and really have time to get into it with however much time you deem is right, Francis, but it's been a real pleasure being here with you. And I hope you check out the resources. I'm going to drop the link in the chat for folks who are on Zoom. And for everyone else, it's literally just solarrights.org/cost shift. You can also Google cost shift and Solar Rights Alliance and we'll pop right up. All right, back to you, Francis.
The website one more time?
Yes, so the website, let me pop it in the chat for folks who are on Zoom so that they aren't wondering what I'm talking about. Here we go.
Everyone out
All
here
right.
has their pens.
Great.
So
Oh, that's
solar,
wonderful. Yes.
solarrights.org/cost shift.
And there's a dash between cost and shift, but Google will get you there. If you type in that much, you'll bump right into it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kaylee, for that presentation. And who's got questions? Any more questions for any of our guests? Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was really exciting to hear about and depressing as well that we've been screwed for all these years. But anyway, onward. But I was wondering, I had heard that the solar industries, including those in San Diego, were struggling because of the disincentivization by the state to install rooftop solar. But what's your sense about the access to the raw materials and the ability for a fairly local or at least US made the components that go into the system and the ability to do that, use those?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. First, I just want to acknowledge the first thing you said, which is yes, there have been a series of reckless decisions by the California Public Utility Commission and then by Governor Newsom recently that have significantly reduced the credit that single family homeowners get for the extra energy they send back to the grid. And then they have also totally taken away the ability of schools, farmers, renters, churches, shopping centers, and any other property that has more than 1 meter from being able to use their own energy on their own roof. And there was a bill that passed with a supermajority in the Senate, which is wild, and 4 votes shy of a supermajority in the Assembly. And Governor Newsom vetoed it just a few weeks ago. That would have fixed that problem and given the rights of schools and renters the ability for them to use their own solar energy on their roof. And you are totally correct that that has resulted in a huge decline in rooftop solar in California, an 80% decline in the industry. 17,000 solar workers have lost their jobs, and many, many mom and pop solar businesses have gone out of business, as well as some of the larger ones too. So the impact has been profound and set us back probably a decade. So it's a real problem, and I really appreciate that you called that out. Your question about materials is a good one too. So I will say that, first of all, the technology that goes into both solar panels and storage, so the batteries and the panels themselves, are constantly evolving. And there's a great article by Union of Concerned Scientists that I'd be happy to share with Francis if folks would like to take a look at it, that talks about the fact that almost all of the materials, something like 95% of the materials that go into both the panels and the batteries, can actually be recycled. So if we do it right, we could create a circular system with solar panels and batteries. That will not be possible if we can't keep rooftop solar growing. Everything will stall. So we have to walk and chew gum at the same time. We have to build and build and build rooftop solar back up, get it growing again in California. And then at the same time, we can work on making that technology better and better. There's already a new battery that's on the horizon. And very soon, it looks like people will be able to use the batteries in their cars to power their homes. You can see how these systems are connected together and how we could do a really good job of recycling and reusing these materials. They also last a really long time. Panels don't have any moving parts, so they can last. They're warranted for usually 25 years, and they can last a lot longer. I hope that answers your question.
Awesome. And then we got another question from
Yeah, hi, Kaylee. It's so great to hear you. You're so well-spoken and knowledgeable. It's just incredible.
Thanks, Darren.
So I understand the slide deck and the clear communication and sitting down with the legislators, and that all seems worthwhile. And in fact, I'd be happy to try and help that. But my question is sort of about this reformist mission versus something more radical. I mean, given what's at stake, this is existential for PG&E, SDG&E, and SoCal Edison, right? They're crushing rooftop solar by grabbing our politicians. It's not like they're going to relent. I don't know, like what time frame we think we can persuade some legislators to do something good in Sacramento. It doesn't sound very promising. And doesn't this lead inevitably to the fact that we need to marshal all of our forces in California all together? All of the solar rooftop owners are pissed off, all of the people of color and low-income people and everyone else, and the anti-capitalist youth and the ex-military conservative types who hate for-profit monopolies, and build a strong movement that can sort of do it through the ballot process where the companies don't have any choice and we just fight them. And these are not mutually exclusive, but I'm sort of interested in your thoughts on the latter.
Great question. Always lovely to chat with you, Aaron. I love your passion and your depth of knowledge on this topic and on so many others. I think the first thing I would say is it's a cart before horse issue. The cost shift lie comes up over and over and over and over again. And it will continue to pollute the waters of change unless we can deal with it. So if you run a ballot measure, this will come up. If you talk with legislators, this will come up. If you try to run a bill, this will come up, and over and over and over again. I agree that the root of the problem, Carolyn said it beautifully, is this profit model, right? Where the utilities are incentivized to build, build, build. And I want to maybe pause for just a second and say, I hope everybody realizes that that's really old. The utility monopoly structure in California is more than a century old, and it was legit when it started. It was not enough power lines across California. So of course they needed to be incentivized to build, build, build. But we don't need that anymore. We need local, we need connected, we need safe. And what the monopoly utility product is offering is not those things. So they're doing everything they can to try to force people to use as much of their system as possible. There are states that have done a number of different things. You folks listed a bunch of them. Another interesting one is Hawaii, which has not really made a municipal utility, but has instead changed the profit structure of the existing monopoly utility. So for example, in Hawaii, instead of getting their profits from building, they get their profits from customer satisfaction. Can you imagine that? If SDG&E had to make their money by doing a good job for you and for everybody else, if PG&E, a convicted felon with 85 murders under their belt, had to get their profits by keeping people safe, I mean, it would completely change, potentially, how the utilities operate. To my mind, we're a long way from there. And the first thing that we need to do is address this cost shift lie, because otherwise it's going to be a stumbling block to any of these paths of progress. So yes, and both, but probably this first would be what I would say. And I will just add, we're really seeing green shoots in the legislature for the first time. We're seeing reporters finally standing up for rooftop solar. We're seeing legislators really defend rooftop solar in various committee meetings. And it's a big deal that the bill that would have protected solar rights for renters and schools made it through the Senate and the Assembly with such a huge degree of support. So I think this is a great opportunity to build on that. And the legislature has shown a real willingness to listen. So I think folks who want to put their time and effort into some or all of these actions, we've seen that that's had a real impact on what has happened out there. So I hope that answers your question too, Erin. It had many parts to it, so I want to make sure it did. Yes, okay.
Adam Aaron. Adam.
Oh, sorry, my
It's
apologies.
funny. No, it's not you're not the first person to do that. I've
my apologies.
myself.
I thought of you in my head this whole time. Adam, my bad.
And actually, I guess my question was going to be on what you just touched on again is, did Governor Newsom give any explanation for why he vetoed that bill?
Yes, he said it would cause a cost shift, which is wild because that bill is not about the extra energy that gets sent to the grid. It's not about how solar users are compensated for their energy. It is about whether or not schools and renters have a right to use the solar on their roof. And if I could just put a finer point on that, just to make sure folks really understand what I mean. If you imagine for a moment a school property, I'll use my own as an example. So my high school was on one square block. You had the high school, you had the gym, you had the middle school. Well, a natural place for the panels to go would be the roof of the gym. To get that energy from those panels to the high school and the middle school, you'd need to run a line connected to a meter on the high school, on the middle school. It's all one property. It all serves one property. When the sunlight hits those solar panels and the electrons go through those meters, they have to touch the grid for a microsecond, a nanosecond, to get from point A to point B, but it still serves that property. What the regulator said is, well, because that electron touches the grid for a nanosecond, it belongs to the monopoly utility, and the school has to buy it back at full retail rate. So the school invests in the panels, produces the energy. That energy is used on site, but they have to pay the utility for the pleasure of producing and using that energy on their roof. And that is the bill that Newsom vetoed. And his excuse was the cost shift lie, even though in that case, we're not even talking about credit for extra energy sent back to the grid. It's wild.
Disgusting indeed.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Yes.
Disgusting. I will note that, encouraging everyone again to use this toolkit and contact your assembly folks and all of the legislators on December 2nd, I believe it is. I will be accompanying Solar Rights Alliance's Dave Rosenfeld.
Yes,
Feld.
yes, you're right.
Rosenfeld on a lobby visit with Chris Ward's office, a virtual lobby visit with Chris Ward. So in particular, that's December 2nd. And so in particular, a lot of public pressure leading up to that meeting is even more a great boost for that. Any other questions? Final questions on this topic? Yes, we're going to 8:30 today. So we have 22 minutes left because we post. Yes. So Kaylee will say thank you to you. Appreciate you. And Carolyn as well. And Adam, thank you guys for being here. And now we're going to transition into something totally different. And that is the annual Activist San Diego board election. And so usually our board election happens in September, but I don't know if you guys know, but this year went way too fast. And so we moved into October because we just didn't get it all together in time. Usually half of our board is elected every other year. Currently, we have 9 board seats, board positions. Technically, at any given moment, if the board decided, we could vote to expand or decrease the board as long as it's an odd number. However, right now, we currently have had 7 board members and we've had 2 open seats. This cycle, Yusuf Miller and myself are the 2 current board members who are up for re-election for another 2-year cycle. And then 2 of the open positions that we had open are also in this cycle. But we also have sort of a new an announcement, and I don't know where Sergio Padilla has stepped outside. Okay, Sergio Padilla, who has a back injury, long-time back injury, can't sit for very long and had to go. So he's been on our board for a year now. And if he were here, I would want to just first start to say what an incredible asset he has been to our organization. He is someone who started as a volunteer. And I will say that one thing that Sergio said, that he's the kind of person, he'd been looking for someone to volunteer, and he kept signing up for places, and no one would ever call him back, or they'd maybe send an email, but no one would ever call him. And so we were doing outreach for our holiday party 2 years ago, and we called him, and then he said he wanted to volunteer, and then someone else called him, and he's like, wow, 2 people have actually called me, like human beings. And so he was like, okay, human beings who are doing something want to get involved. So he has he's someone who has a lot of nonprofit experience, having himself run an organization, and he's brought a lot of organization to us. And the reason I'm talking about Sergio right now is that Sergio has actually asked that he's going to step down from the board at this time. He is still going to continue to participate and continue to be probably serving as our secretary, just not serving on the board. So I say all that to say, we now have 3 open board seats, and we have 3 new candidates who are interested in joining the board. And 2 of them are here right now. One of them is maybe on Zoom. I'm going to figure that out, or maybe on her way. The third person I'll say, who's not here, I'll actually just start by mentioning, can you see if Taylor is on the Zoom? Taylor Gayton is a professor, an assistant professor at SDSU. I think that's the right one. So she teaches a course on Monday nights, and so that is why she hasn't been here until now. We have 2 of our board candidates here in person, and we are now going to so we're going to start with them. We're going to give them each 5 minutes to introduce themselves to us, share their background, and also why they are inspired to run for the ASD board, and maybe what their vision is, what they want to bring to ASD. We'll have each of them talk for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to open it up for questions so you guys can grill them. We're going to, for time's sake, we're not necessarily going to have Yusuf and I talk about ourselves unless you have, but we can include us in the specific questions during the Q&A part if you have questions for us. And then I will also state that everyone who has paid, who has donated over $24 over the last year, 365 days, is considered a voting member. And all of the voting members should have received in their email a link to vote. We are going to, it is now that vote is live. You will be able to choose, the 5 of us listed are there. You could choose whether or not we should be on the board, or you can abstain, saying if you don't want to vote for us. And we are going to leave the voting open for 1 week. So it'll close at 7 p.m. next Monday, just to give people who are not here time to review the video and cast their ballots as well. Without further ado, Joanna, do you want to go first? Down to go first? All right, here's Joanna Lopez.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Well, does this sound good? Yeah. Okay, a little bit louder. Gotcha. I'm Joanna Lopez, longtime ASD volunteer and neighbor. I grew up across the street from the ASD house and was active in their events without really knowing for a while. I called it the hippie house growing up. I thought it was a hippie house, the co-op on Whitman. No, but truly I'm here today to let you know a little bit about who I am. I'm currently working for Council District 9, Sean Elo Rivera. I'm a student at San Diego City College studying public policy and law. So my passion really is to know about international and local issues. Like I said, I'm a longtime City Heights resident, and it's really interesting to work for the city, and I'm part of the district that I work in. So learning the ins and out of how the city deals with issues that we see in the community of City Heights and other primarily Hispanic and low income community members like Mount Hope and Stockton. So that's really where I've been at, making sure that we have events, engaging community members. A couple things that stood out to me about today was, our involvement with SDG&E. So I really, Martin's not here, but he mentioned something really important that stood out to me, which is how we can encourage nonprofits and community leaders to not be involved with SDG&E. So that's a really big one to me. It's really hard to say no when they will fund your event. We have a lot of turkey drives coming up, a lot of events coming up for the holidays, and I would love to see organizations and local agencies less involved with these vultures, essentially. So what I'm truly passionate about is transit. I'm a transit advocate. I helped out Mid-City Can, making sure that youth got free transit passes, and we're still keeping that going. So it's really important for our youth to get access to transit and get to know the neighborhoods in City Heights. I also was part of the movement to get a commission on police practices and to put a halt to the vigilancy of our communities in City Heights by police. So that's a little bit of what I've done in the past. I'm a longtime student. I'm big on learning, and I've learned a lot through the ASD, especially on international issues, and I'm here to keep learning and hopefully join you all. I would say the reason for me wanting to be a board member is to get more community members involved in City Heights specifically. City Heights is the home of ASD, of KNSJ, and I would love to see more community members. They're like ready to be active. You just need someone to poke them, to wake them up. And I think I'd be the perfect candidate for that. I'm bilingual. I've worked in a lot of projects and know how to organize people to get them, to be passionate and share what they're all about. So that's all I have for y'all today. If you have any questions for me, I'll be right here.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's go to Nick first and then do questions. And I did get word Taylor is handling an issue with a client. She's a social worker instructor. So that is where she's. Nick Van Minnen.
Hi, everybody. I kind of bring a certain perspective to this thing, and that will become more apparent in a moment. I'm originally from the Netherlands. I moved to America to study architecture. I graduated on a sustainable design track. And my specialty is affordable housing, sustainable because of my design concentration, and affordable. And the perspective that I bring from the Netherlands is smaller housing. And that's one of the issues in America, is that we build way too more house than we needed, which is one of the aspects also that makes things unaffordable for people. I've active in a number of groups that has been pushing affordable housing. I have been a chair for a group called the Social Housing Justice, where we have been pushing for social housing, because according to SANDAC, we have a shortfall just in San Diego City of more than 100,000 units up to 2029. And to even not fall further behind, we need to build more than 20,000 affordable units a year. And with all the projects that the city is going on, it's not anywhere close. So social housing, that's one of my things. I'm also a member of the Logan Heights housing community, which is where Martin's project is. And I've also been active as a chair for a group called the Social Housing Justice Committee, and that's also been pushing the social housing. But anyway, to get back to why I'm running for board, Martin Eder has this project, social housing / communal living, affordable for people. Sorry, I should have said eco-village. My bad. Anyway, from that perspective, I also bring something from the Netherlands because there's a lot of co-housing movements going on there. And let me just make a quick sidestep about that, because when I was growing up in the Netherlands in a row house, we knew everybody in the street. We knew them by name, we knew the kids, we had block parties. I've been living in City Heights as well, and since 2013. But in these 11 years, we've only got to know one set of neighbors. They're Mexican, no surprise. Nobody else. And I think one of the things that we have in this society is alienation and loneliness. I think one of the things that we have with the political system, which is so at odds with that, is because we don't know each other anymore. And just one more side note, and I'll get back to the main thing. Some time ago on public television, I had an item in Japan where all the people are so lonely that they commit petty crimes to be sent to prison because they will have a community there. Anyway, to tie back in this is that we need these things, housing, social housing, whatever you want to call it, as a way that we can reconnect people. Our houses kind of are very defining for our welfare. So that's what I bring to the table, and has been suggested that as a board member, I can work to further Martin's project. Anyway, that's my story, and I hope I've earned your vote.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, and so now we will open it up for questions in an orderly fashion. And I don't think we can ask questions of Nick's wife about Nick. I don't think that's, but maybe, I don't know. Okay, I believe Martin had a question to kick us off.
One of the things that I think Activist San Diego could do a lot better is to become more of a multi-generational organization. So I wanted your thoughts on what we need to do and how we need to do it in order to transform ourselves, Joanna. And I would add Ricardo to that question as well.
We're only asking members who are running for the board, and also I'm gonna also say that question's not just for Joanna. We're gonna ask Nick that question too, and I will note that we have multiple generations in this room right now. So go ahead.
Alrighty. That's a great question. So I would say this year I've been having a lot of full circle moments. In high school, I was part of the first ever committee to create a constitution for the Cesar Chavez service clubs. And I was also part of youth council, getting involved in learning about local and public power. And this year, I'm 21, I got to speak to those groups as the adult and talk to them about my experience. So then that's when I felt that feeling, okay, this is what happens once you move on, you take a step you start working in local government, you have these opportunities to tell people about yourself and your experience and the route you took through life. And I think there's a lot we could do to engage young folks. Social media is a big part of young people's lives these days, and using that power for good. I think there's a lot of engagement we could do through social media and videos, graphic design, and just as well as engaging community members in the neighborhood. I had no idea that Activist San Diego was Activist San Diego there in that little greenhouse across the street. But I know a lot of youth that would love to come by, help out with flyers, help canvas, help go door to door and tell their community members, their family members, and bridge that gap, those language barriers. So I think what we could do is just engage young folks through showing up to their events, doing outreach at the park in City Heights. Unfortunately, after the pandemic, not a lot of services opened back up. So like the recreation center and activities at the park got closed down. So now what do kids do? They engage in negative activities. We have a lot more tagging, gang-related, graffiti, and bad. We have violence in City Heights. So getting those young folks to get involved and use that energy that they have, that anger that they have, and getting them riled up about power and in our local communities.
Awesome. Thank you. Nick, do you want to add to that question though? Just because I think,
Quite sure what Martin was asking.
he was saying, how do we create a generational movement? And I think what he's saying is, how do we get young people involved? But I also believe in, how do we get the old people involved? How do we get the retirees who have money and time? So I think it's, but how do you, and I guess we can expand, how do you, just any thoughts on building a diverse movement?
Well, I think that I can't speak to younger people. I'm not one of that. Yeah. Once, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I think that co-housing, where you build multi-generational units, is a way that we can kind of connect and spread the word. And as an architect, that's kind of can be my contribution, is building in such a way, and urban design as well, that we create these paths that allow people to react. So public spaces where we bring people together, that create attractive places where people want to be and get together. And these things are ways to nurture relationships. People tend to stick in their houses. I remember when we used to live in Boston, there was a neighborhood, Austin, where we sat a house, and all the Americans were inside behind the air conditioning. All the Hispanics were outside on the stoop. And let's create a situation where we have more stoops or whatever as places where people can meet and connect. So creating the public domain that now allows these things to happen.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to encourage anyone who's on the live stream on the Zoom, if you have any questions for our board candidates or even Yusuf or I as incumbent board members, any other questions in the room or on the Zoom? Okay. And what we are going to do, like I mentioned, is that the ballots, and actually, Helena, can you look on in your email and see if you got the link to vote? Okay, so if you should have an email, check your spam. If you are someone who has donated more and contributed more than $24 in the last year, you should have an email to vote. If you believe that you are have contributed that amount and you did not receive a ballot, please come let me know. You can also email me at us@activistsandiego.org. And what we are going to do is we're going to take the video from tonight. We're going to edit. We're going to clip Joanna and Nick's presentations to then share with folks who weren't here tonight and let them all vote. Also, we're going to ask Taylor to record a video of herself, and we'll share that along so everyone can get to know her as well. And I, okay. Hang on one second. Okay. Yeah, clarifying question?
Yeah, just to clarify, we do have 5 positions open, right?
Yes, there are 5 positions and there are 5 candidates current. Okay, yeah, I know it's so true. And so I would say if you would like to hold off. Oh, the question was, so there are currently 5 open spots and there are 5 candidates. And now if you would like to go ahead and vote in the email you received now, you're welcome to, but we'd also encourage you maybe to wait till we get a video from Taylor introducing herself. I would actually suggest, this is another thing, and I would Google Taylor Gayton. And the reason I say that is because so she had signed up on our website, just, as a volunteer, and I did a volunteer onboarding call with her, and I Googled her before contacting her, as one does. And what I what I found online about her made me think she would be an exceptional board member. And so I had a probably an hour-long conversation with her the first time. We did a Zoom call and we met, and so everything about her told me, and I was the one who encouraged her to consider applying for the board. So I'm going to say Google her. We're going to get a video from her. And also, she is new to town, and this does kind of bring up the question of like someone who hasn't been involved with ASD and is new. One might say that might be a little new. I'm going to just state that the reason that I encouraged her to is, even though she's new to town because she moved here for an academic position. So it's not like she was always here and just ignoring us. She looked online, found us. And like I said, from everything you'll see about her, she's a social worker and professor of social work. So she has a keen sense of she's smart and awesome in all the right ways. And I will state one thing she has said about why she wants to join our board is that we're doers. She says a lot of organizations are just talking about stuff. The fact that we're getting, we're in the dirt and in the weeds and whatnot. So I will leave it at that. Nick?
You mentioned 5 candidates. Who are the other 2?
That would be Yusuf and I, our incumbent candidates. So as incumbents. And actually, before anyone leaves, there is also, when you vote, you can actually, I did make it so you can do a write-in, which if you want. Before you all leave though, okay, real quick, before anyone leaves, one announcement, especially you guys, before you leave, one announcement I forgot to make earlier is that in organizing around Palestinian liberation, so we're connected with a lot of the different organizations that are organizing, and a group decided to have a strategy session. So anyone who wants to convene on a strategy session around pro-Palestinian organizing, that is going to be happening on 11/7, Thursday, November 7th. A time and date have not been selected yet, but I will reach me. Us at Activist San Diego. Okay.
I got a message here from San Diego for Palestine that the UCLA encampment is back up.
Oh, UCLA, cool. So yeah, November 7th for the strategy session. And love to have you guys there. And then lastly, before we call it a night, we actually have two of our new speaking of co-housing, Activist San Diego, the Hippie House has a bunch of people living co-op style, and we have two of our newest residents here with us. So wanted to take a moment to introduce you. We'll start here, Joshua. Just introduce.
Hi, this is Josh. I think y'all probably have seen me before. I've been living in the co-house since May 1st. And yeah, I really enjoy being here and really enjoy getting involved in activism and everything behind it and everything all. I'm not much of a public speaker, so I think that's pretty much gonna be it. But if you have any questions, ask away.
Awesome. And Joshua, Josh is been helping several weeks. And actually another announcement, I guess, is that Activist San Diego, we've been showing up and holding space at the City Heights Farmers Market, which is now on Sundays from 10 to 2. In January, it may start switching to Saturdays, but to be determined. We think traffic might be higher because it's not church day. But Sundays until through December. And I will say you're all invited to come down this coming weekend. Lucilla and I are actually heading out to Philly to go knock on some doors. So we won't be at the market this Sunday, but after that and every other week, we've just been bringing music and having performances if you guys want. But it's just a lot of fun chill hangout time and introducing people to what we're all about and helping to bring more people to that market because we want to grow that market to make it higher traffic for vendors as well. And Mo, come on up. And then our newest, are you the newest resident? I mean, yeah.
Okay. Hi. Oh. Hello. I'm Mose. I moved into the co-op. What day is it? What day? Maybe 3 weeks ago or something. What? Yes. I moved into the co-op around 3 or so weeks ago at the end of last month. I have been here since. I moved from the Seattle area. I was going to college up there and realized that I wanted an opportunity to be able to enact social change on a much more personal level than the one I was previously doing. And yeah, I hope to get involved with KNSJ, but beyond that, I'm just an open here to see what you guys are doing around here. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. And we've got Bianca.
I knew this meeting was happening. However, I wanted to make sure I had the time and date correctly. So I went into the website and there was no announcement whatsoever on the website on this meeting today. Then I checked my email and they have an email reminded me of the meeting. So I think it is important that we upgrade all the forms of communication if we want to reach other people besides ourselves. And also, I was very involved with the student participation and I am an alumni from UCSD and I was there every day when the students were in camping. And I kept hoping almost every day, and I asked Martin, we must have a table there for the students to know that we are supporting them and also to attract them to inquire about who we are. But unfortunately, us, who did manage to do that. And hopefully, if they're already starting to encamp at UCLA, there's a good chance that UCSD will do it also. So I would like us to make sure that we have a table for the students to know who we are, if we have any hope to attract the youth to us and them to us as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, if I can second what Bianca just said. Bianca spoke to me that she had some concern about some of the expenditures. If I understand right, somebody is being paid to update the website. So if that's not happening, then we should look at that, because you don't want to be paying for somebody who's not doing anything. So that's just a side note that we need to review any costs and things that we spend money on.
Okay. I'm the stipended organizer who I guess will take the blame. I will state you should have received 2 emails that included talking about this meeting. One should have been about a week and a half ago, which was the first email that talked about this meeting, and then one more about it a couple days back. So hopefully, if you're not getting the emails, there might be a problem. So if you didn't get emails, please go back to the website, sign up for the emails, make sure you hit the confirm the response buttons. This meeting, I will say, is on the website, and there's a button that says sign up for October 21st meeting, which is one of the first things you see. But I will state this month I did forget to put it up onto the little thing. So I will take all the blame for that. And we'll try harder next month. On that note, next month's meeting is on November 16th. Did I say it was? I had said it was. It was on November 18th, and then the holiday party on December 16th. So we will see you all. And November 9th, we will see you all at the celebration for our 25th anniversary. That is on November 9th at City College. Yes, and that should also be in your email. I sent out an email. Okay, it sounds like something's wrong with your email then, or the thing, or that the email isn't coming to you. It also, I will say, check also your spam filters, but we'll double check within the system why you're not getting emails. But there are emails. You should be getting them, and onward and upward. I will also say, some of the work that I have done that you've paid me for. Also, we do have new flyers which cover the different campaigns and coalitions. So please feel free to grab a few of them, a handful of them, and distribute them wherever you go to your friends. And thank you all for being here and your participation. And we are going to sign off now. All right. Okay, we're gonna not sign off. We have one.
I just want to say that I looked in the website, and it is here. It says register for October 21st Community Summit. You hit it and it takes you to